a concerned black woman that enough people do not know about Project 25 and the potential harmful implications of another Trump presidency. And don't get me wrong, I do think a two-party system is stupid. I do feel like it's dumb that these are only two candidates. I am aggravated by the fact that it's always the lesser of two evils. What else am I aggravated by? A lot of things. But the fact of the matter is that progress is something that is lifelong. And there's always going to be people who are, who are bad and evil. There are always going to be people who are bad and evil who want to take advantage of other people and want to pass their agenda, and sometimes they get their way. But I think you really have to keep putting in the work to make things better, to make a better future, and that is annoying, and it really shouldn't be like that, but it is. And instead of talking about it, bitching about it in social media comments, I think actually getting out into the world and making change happen is important and vital. And that can be hard to do because we live under a system where it's always work just to survive. And that's part of the problem as well. But that's also why change is so important. Okay, all right. I'm gonna get into this. If you're asking why I give a damn so much, I work in healthcare and politics, so I hear about the horrible, awful implications of the shit that's going on every single day. So first, I'm gonna talk about Project 2025. I think some people know of it. They might not know, like, it is 1,000 pages, and I think that is done purposefully to keep people from trying to read it. But their agenda is out in the open. It's white Christian nationalist men with money who are trying to push their agenda on the entire country. That is literally branded as a melting pot. So trying to force everybody into their own agenda is just so beyond me. Anyways, so here are just some of the main points. Because again, it is 1,000 pages. They've really just been working really hard on this, and they think it's really good ideas. But for people who think that they're too good to vote for either candidate, or you feel like you're on some type of moral high ground by refusing to vote, which could potentially lend a hand to Christian nationalists putting the lives of millions of Americans at peril, here's just a little something I put together just for you. First of all, I'm not sure if the Republican Party was always this horrible or if it was just overtaken with horrible, awful people. But there are a lot of right-wing extremists and Christian nationalists in the Republican Party at this point in time who are doing the bidding of the Heritage Foundation, who is also funded by rich billionaire capitalists who also happen to be Christian and white nationalists. So I don't know exactly when different politics meant that this person shouldn't have basic human rights. Like, it's supposed to be, we have different ways or different policies that we want to solve homelessness and poverty and illiteracy, not whether or not somebody has access to basic human rights. But anyway, this is a 900-page document. It's a blueprint for the next Republican president. Basically, it's a plan to gut what remainder of democracy we have left. They really want to put black people, gays, anyone else who's in a white straight man on a bus to hotel hell, and checkout time is never. So essentially what they want to do is dismantle the checks and balances system entirely and give the president an insane amount of executive power, meaning that he just has the power of the pen. Whatever the president says is gonna go. You don't hear from Congress, you don't hear from anybody else, just whatever the president wants, the president is gonna get. Which, our whole system is supposed to be based on checks and balances. That's why we have Congress. That's why the president can veto stuff. Like, it's really stupid. They want to fire thousands of civil servants and replace them with loyalists who are loyal to Project 2025, ensuring that they won't get any opposition with any of the things that they try to do or overturn. They want to dismantle the Department of Education because it is forcing critical race theory on children, and force us women back into the 1800s by banning abortion and contraception. And I know some half-brain somewhere is going to say, oh, that could never happen. But look at the red states. If you live in Louisiana, you see it happening right here. Move to make medication abortion a controlled substance. Like, putting it in the same category as, like, hard drugs, like heroin. Despite medication abortion, mifepristone, misoprostol, being scientifically proven to be safer than giving birth in the United States of America. They also passed a law to make the 10 Commandments mandatory in classrooms. That is so crazy that for a group of people who go so hard for the Second Amendment, they really ignore the first one a lot. Louisiana does rank 47th in education, so despite the fact that the 10 Commandments may be up on the wall, a lot of these kids can't even read them. There are bigger fish to fry here, but our government would like to continue to exploit impoverished working class so that they can build profit off of their backs. And these people are so busy being poor and uneducated, working to just survive, that they can't question how fucked up the people in power are. Jeff Landry, I'm looking at you. They want to ban abortion nationwide. Now, mind you, there's no funding, no extra funding for childcare. Just want to ban abortion nationwide. Give you no extra money for childcare. No closing the pay gap so that women make more money. No free health care. Not addressing the fact that black women are disproportionately affected by maternal mortality because doctors don't even take them seriously. There's so much racism in the healthcare system that women die at an alarming rate whenever they are pregnant or giving birth. The maternal mortality rate for black women is 50 out of every 100,000 compared to white women, which is 19 per every 100,000, which women just don't get listened to in general. Did you know that if you want to have a hysterectomy or get your tubes tied, you need to talk to your partner first? Or if you're a certain age or if you don't have a certain amount of kids, your doctor won't do it, even though you decide that's what's best for you. Not to mention black women in the South are more likely to be in a maternity desert, meaning that there aren't any doctors within a reasonable distance. Just in Alabama, there are like 21 counties that don't have OBGYNs. So people who are pregnant there don't even have access to the prenatal care that they need. So you can't get the care you need for the children that you're being forced to have. And there's no guarantee that you can afford to give birth because there's no health care. Or that you'll even live through birth because the maternal mortality rate is so high. Women would lose access to emergency contraception depending on where they live. So the Biden administration, next topic. The Biden administration has helped to protect workers' rights to organize, but Project 2025 would work to erase the work of the National Labor Relations Board. So, like the writer's strike that happened, so that they get paid a reasonable wage to do work that Netflix and Hulu are making tons and tons and tons of profit off of. That would be a no-go. So your legal right to come together as workers to bargain for better wages and better working conditions would be erased, eroded, gone. Medicaid. Louisiana people, I know a lot of you are on Medicaid because this is a very low-income state. Medicaid, which millions of low-income families need to get the essential care they need, would put time limits or caps on Medicaid throughout your lifetime. So if you're on it for a certain amount of time, regardless of what your income is, they can take your coverage away. So this is especially bad for states without Medicaid expansion. This could mean that low-income people aren't healthy enough to go to work. They're not getting routine care. It's deepening health disparities, and it's creating more economic instability. Those people that you don't respect and don't think deserve a living wage working in fast food joints or in retail stores, yeah, they're getting sick. They're not being able to work. They're becoming more reliant on the system and creating economic instability because those jobs aren't being filled because people are too sick to go to work. People can't take care of themselves. So less jobs means less economic stimulation. You go where I'm going with this? A recession. The economy is going to go down. Thank you. They want to weaken higher education by completely eliminating the Department of Education. Completely eliminating the Department of Education. Okay. Getting rid of loan payment based on income and replace it with a one-size-fits-all plan. So no matter how much money you make, if you make $20,000 a year, if you make $20 million a year, you would have the same loan repayment plan. So this could make your balances balloon like crazy. Crazy interest for people who need to take out loans, meaning monthly payments would go up. Essentially locking a lot of people out of furthering their education because they simply can't afford loan repayments. First of all, I would never pay back a student loan, to be honest. But some people do. And this would completely lock them out of furthering their education, limits what they can do work-wise, further hurts the economy. So, Project 2025 would also increase the loan burden on people who serve the public, like teachers. Teachers who are, I might argue, the foundation of countries. You know, they're teaching your kids. Your kids are the future. Do you want your kids to know nothing? Do you want your kids to have somebody to teach them at all? Do you want to homeschool them? Like, teachers are foundational to the country and to a thriving and successful economy, future, population of people. They simply would not be able to pay their loans back because this country doesn't respect teachers who have such an important job educating the generations that come after us, that they wouldn't be able to pay back their loans. So it would put a huge burden on them. Project 2025 would eliminate Head Start. So you'd be forced to have kids with nowhere to send them, meaning that you won't be able to go to work because you don't have anybody to watch your kids, worsening the economy even further because a lot of times women, after they have kids, do go back into the workforce. They don't have anywhere to send their kids. They can't go back into the workforce, worsening the economy even further. So Head Start is mainly used by lower income people facing poverty. Sending your kids to Head Start gives you a chance to get back into the workforce. You can pursue entrepreneurial endeavors. You can further your education. Without Head Start, without a doubt, childcare costs are going to increase even more. There will be less available spots for kids that need childcare. Rural communities, of course, will suffer the most, as they often do when it comes to things like this. Low-income families as a whole can't afford private childcare because it costs an insane amount. And kids who are affected the most would probably be Latino children, tribal communities, and children who are in foster care or face homelessness. But these are the people who claim that they care so much about life that they want to ban abortions because, you know, life begins at conception. That they would snatch opportunities away from children that are already here, from children and families that are already here. They would also like to get rid of Christian school and have women either homeschool their kids or implement Christian schools so that we can raise a Christian society. They want to replace civil servants with government appointees who are loyal to the conservative ideology. Would also attack the LGBTQ plus community, potentially reversing the legalization of gay marriage and making it impossible for gay couples to adopt kids. The people who care so much about life, they do not want a homeless child or a child that is orphaned. They would not want them to have a loving family just because it is a same-sex couple. The Heritage Foundation, who has put this whole thing together, wants to go back to traditional family and take back the government from the radical leftists. Are the radical leftists in the room with us? Because the Democrats that are in Congress, the Democrats that are elected to these public official roles are far from radical leftists. If anything, they're more right-leaning. Child, all the while, these white Christian nationalists are saying that Project 2025 cannot be stopped. They have put in a lot of work, effort, and research to try and strip away the rights that people have worked so hard for. Trump has repeatedly said that he won't be a dictator except for on the first day, which is so wild because isn't that what people claimed Obama was going to be and that Biden was going to try to do? They swore Obama would put us under Sharia law, when that is very much what Project 2025 is trying to do. This is bad for anyone who doesn't want to be in a more downturn economy. This is bad for any black person, any woman, any person of color, any immigrant. So let's get into that. Because Trump will be a puppet to the conservative agenda. At this point, I'm not even sure if this is things that he believes in or he just says the most outrageous things that he can say to like stir the pot. But a few of his platform ideas, he wants to get rid of income tax and put tariffs on imports. Okay, so if you don't know what a tariff is, it is basically just a tax on something. He would need to put 85% tariffs on everything. So importers are having to pay more, meaning that the increase is getting passed on to you, the consumer. So if you think prices and inflation are bad now, just wait until you are paying that the price of an 85% tariff is being passed down to you. Again, affecting poor rural people the most and benefiting the rich. And this could also potentially lead to trade wars, as if we already don't have an unstable, like, he wants to build the American Academy, which will be funded by taxing, fining, and suing private universities and using that to build the American Academy. There will be no wokeness or jihadism allowed. He wants to end citizenship giving to the children of undocumented immigrants, even though those children were born here. He wants to cut DEI, cut welfare from immigrants, pause. Undocumented people cannot receive welfare unless there are very special circumstances, i.e. to protect life or safety, something like emergency Medicaid. Like if you're dying in the emergency room, bleeding out, you can get like emergency Medicaid. Even DACA recipients cannot get these things. And if you are a documented immigrant, you have to live here at least 5 years legally to receive any type of welfare benefits. So let's cut that lie out right there. He wants to move away from other potential sources of energy and put everything into fossil fuels and do away with frivolous environmental protections. He wants to go ahead and move forward with the Keystone Pipeline. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, there was a huge uproar and people were protesting this. He wants to say, to hell with all of those people, let's go ahead and build it anyways. He wants to drill, baby, drill. But oil and gas production have never been higher. So I don't know why he's under the impression that drilling is not already happening. But go off. They're saying that it is Biden's green energy deals that have prices high, when things were actually at their highest. It was due to the economy rebounding from the pandemic and Russia invading Ukraine. So Trump did say he wanted to save coal miners despite their payroll lowering on his watch and actually rising under Biden's. And at the end of 2019, when Trump could have done something about actually saving coal miners, he actually let that idea fizzle out. So I guess he didn't care that much about saving coal miners. Moving on, many people were turned off by the debate, I being one. I agree, it is very embarrassing. But rather than talk about what he has done for the last 4 years, President Biden has decided to play into Donald Trump's stupid games. So since his campaign is so dense that they would rather try and have him remember talking points than actually be a human being, talk about things that he's done. You've met with black communities, you have met with abortion storytellers, you've met with all these people, you've been doing this for decades. Why aren't you telling us what you've done to humanize yourself. Be confident in what you have done as a president, because it certainly has been something, okay? It's a lot more than what we've got from some presidents. So I'll go ahead and do their job for them. Now, as with most administrations, a lot of the things that are passed or are done will take a few years for you to see the effects of it. So you won't see the immediate effects. This is not an instant gratification type thing. He passed an infrastructure bill to repair the crumbling bridges and roads of our countries and bring internet access to rural communities. Internet access is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. So many kids in rural communities would not have even been able to continue their education had they not had access to the Affordable Connectivity Program, which gives free or low-cost internet to low-income families, people who need it the most, i.e. Also, Congress has so kindly not continued to fund the Affordable Connectivity Program, but instead send those funds to children in Gaza. But that's another video. There are a whole ton of other people that you need to be pissed off at aside from the president. But that's another video. Also, the bill works to improve public transit and put money towards clean drinking water, which some places don't have. The levels of iron and arsenic and all this other shit are so high that they're literally getting papers from their water company saying, oh, the level of arsenic in the water has exceeded the safe amount. Like, he passed the first major gun safety bill in 30 years. While it's not everything that someone would hope for in a gun safety bill, it's a start. It is a start. He signed it, 10 days after the attack in Buffalo? It would incentivize states to pass red flag laws that would allow groups to petition courts to take weapons away from people who are deemed a threat to themselves and others. It also expands on an existing law that prevents people who are convicted of domestic violence from owning a gun, to including dating partners and not just spouses or former spouses. And it also expands background checks on people between 18 and 21 who are looking to buy a gun. He passed the Build Back Better law that included major health care reform, universal pre-K and paid family leave, and put a ton of money into combating climate change, paid for in part by taxing corporations and the super rich. Climate change, the thing that is literally affecting us right now, and every generation to come after us, your kids, if you have them, will face the effects of climate change. And now, what we do about it now will either make or break how severe it'll be. That is the reason it's like 113-degree heat index outside right now. That is the reason they're having hurricanes in California. The bill also included more money to the IRS to hire more people, update its technology, and audit the rich. And also put a $2,000 out-of-pocket cap on those who are insured by Medicaid. And also the number of insured Americans has increased significantly under this administration because they can actually afford to get health care under it. President Biden has also invested significant funds into tribal communities and tribal governments and Native communities. These communities are people who are disproportionately impacted by health disparities. They're less likely to have insurance. They have high maternal mortality rates. They have very high suicide rates. So putting funding into those communities that need it. He also signed an executive order to advance equity and racial justice. So that can help address things like racism in healthcare. Leading action to narrow the racial wealth gap. Black women get paid a certain amount compared to men, white women. Black women, Latino women, Asian women get paid less than that. So working to close that gap. And invest in communities facing persistent poverty, rural communities, Black communities, immigrant communities. delivering racial justice and reform criminal justice. Okay? Sign legislation protecting marriage for same-sex and interracial couples, because that is something that has been mentioned in the Supreme Court that they would potentially strike down or come after next. Same-sex marriage and interracial marriage. Interracial marriage in 2024. Also in the bill, legislation to advance equality for Americans who are members of the LGBTQ plus community. He appointed a number of women and people of color to serve in his administration. Shout out Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first Black woman to serve on the Supreme Court, along with a record number of other diverse judicial appointees. He initiated the process to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law and pardon prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possession. People who have non-violent criminal offenses. It's not even a crazy drug like heroin or anything. So people who really shouldn't have been in jail in the first place. When it comes to Gaza and Palestine, he has called for a ceasefire and presented a plan to do so. Again, not perfect, but I don't know why people are under the impression that you are always going to get a candidate who is perfect every time. Israel does not want to back off, but a plan has been presented. It's clear to me that the continuation of applying pressure like these students have been doing on these college campuses across the country, causing these major institutes to divest, it's a really great start, and you just simply can't give up. The only way to stop things like this is to starve them. So if you're putting all this pressure on these high, what's the word I'm thinking of? I don't know. But if you apply pressure and you stop going there and the money stops flowing and you're starving these corporations, like Starbucks has been chomping at the fucking bit to get people back in there. Why? Because they're starving their cash flow. So just remember, if you think you're on some moral high ground by not voting for Biden because of Gaza, but refusing to acknowledge all the people who will without a doubt suffer and potentially die, and that's not a fear-mongering thing. People will die under Project 2025. We're going to have our very own genocide here in America. Then your moral high ground is simply not as high as you think it is. There's also the concern of 2 justices potentially retiring in the next 4-year cycle and potentially being replaced with Trump appointees, having effects that will last our entire lifetime. 5 conservative Trump-appointed Supreme Court justices. Look at the damage that is already causing. The Supreme Court has already gotten rid of Chevron deference, which if you were born after 1984, this is the fabric of life as you know it. Life since you've been born. This is them saying that they know more than the head of the FDA, the head of the EPA, the head of the FBI, doctors, scientists, lawyers. Well, not lawyers because they're judges, but doctors, scientists. They have final say over what's safe for you to travel in. Those Boeings that have been falling apart in the air, they can go ahead and say that's safe for you to travel in. They can tell you what is safe for you to put in your body because they think they know more than the FDA. They can say, oh yeah, this won't harm the environment at all because they think they know more than the EPA. Judges, people who have nothing to do with science, are essentially putting profit over the interest of people, because at the end of the day, that is what this is about. It's about profit. And before you're like, oh, good, we don't need these 3-letter organizations, get federal regulations out of here. It is simply moving power from people who are actually experts in this field to people who know fucking nothing in the Supreme Court. This isn't small government making decisions for you. It is the Supreme Court. It's big government, actually. So prepare yourself for poisoned drinking water, unsafe levels of deadly chemicals in your food, worsening climate change, potential bans on gay marriage, more civil rights rollbacks on DEI, abortion bans, and most importantly, profit over fucking people. And if you're out here thinking that this has no effect on you, just know that after the people who are most vulnerable are affected by it, you will without a doubt be affected by it next. A lot of people didn't have anything to say whenever they were banning abortions in the southeast states, and then Republicans, conservatives came for IVF, saying that a test tube has more rights than a pregnant woman. A test tube is a child, it's a person, and it has rights. So at the end of the day, when they take everything else away, there's nobody else to take it from. There's no other minority population to exploit. You're going to be exploited next. And this is aimed at a certain group of people, and they know exactly who they are. The same way they tried to come for birth control, the same way they tried to come for emergency contraception. They want total power. They want to make you slaves to corporation, make housing unaffordable, unable to plan your families when you want to, force you into poverty and lifelong servitude. This just simply isn't a fear-mongering tactic. It's something that you can look up. You can put together 2 and 2 and figure out what the implications are. And if you think you're safe from it, you're not. So, hope that you will all hit the polls this November and not just think about yourself and how inconvenient it is that we have 2 candidates that we don't really want. Yeah, we don't. But at the end of the day, I care about other people, and I care about the future of this country, and I think that's the most patriotic thing you can be, is critical of the country that you live in. And it's okay to be critical, and it's okay to be upset, but at the end of the day, you still need to show up. And if it doesn't happen exactly the way you want on the first time, you need to keep showing up. Okay, bye.